Is stuck in a reading slump and asked for a bookish box from Sower to help break her out of that slump. Here are my suggestions if you happen to also find yourself in a slump. To begin with, I have graphic novels. Graphic novels absolutely still count as reading. Do not take anyone else's word for that. They are reading. And since they're usually pretty picture heavy, it doesn't feel as intense to step into a graphic novel, a graphic story of some kind. Slump breaking tip is short stories. Short stories come in all shapes and sizes and genres, and that is such a great way to get to dip your toe into something and not have to commit really the whole way. You can just read a story. This one's contemporary, as is this book collection. There's also romance short stories, there's scary short stories, there's humorous short stories. All of those, great way to get a sense of completion and not feel like I can't commit to anything. My very last recommendation is the thing that bust me out of my slump at the beginning of pandemic, and that would be stories in verse. So stories in verse, if you are not familiar, are the kind where they're written in poetry. Look at all of that white space. I love poems or stories in verse because they give you such a great chance to breathe. It's not 1,000 words on the page just like running into your face. It gives you a chance to take a breath. And that was, at the beginning of pandemic. I think everyone's minds were just completely scattered. It took me forever to finish a single book, and I was like, what am I if I'm not a reader? And then I read Elizabeth Acevedo's The Poet X in verse, and just felt so much better. Yes, I could still be a reader. I just might need a little bit of time here to get back to the level that I'm used to reading at. You have the slump-breaking mountain of books, graphic novels, short stories, novels in verse, and then I would also plug revisit some of your old favorites. Revisit something that is super low stakes because you know what's coming, you know how the story's going to end, and it takes the onus, that pressure off of you to be like digesting an entirely brand new piece of information. So I hope that helps.